Good afternoon and thank you for staying tuned to Africa News 24 Television, your premier source for timely updates from across the continent and beyond. I'm 𝗷𝗶𝘃𝗲𝗿𝘀, bringing you the latest developments in politics, sports, and more. We begin this hour in politics and with reports from Rivers State as some members of the State House of Assembly say they are proceeding with the impeachment process on the governor and deputy governor of the state, 𝗰𝗵𝗂𝗶𝘰𝗹 and Professor 𝗧𝗏𝗪𝗪𝗀. The members of the Assembly, during a media briefing in Port Harcourt, the state capital, said the decision becomes important to exercise their oversight function as enshrined in the Constitution. The lawmakers insist their action is to check the exercise of the governor and his deputy after other alternatives failed. They also dismiss insinuation of ethnic coloration to their action, adding that their effort is in the best interest of the oil-rich state. Still in politics, 𝗵𝗂𝗃𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗏, son of former Vice President and 2023 presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, 𝗵𝗂𝗃𝗲𝗃, has formally defected to the ruling All Progressives Congress, pledging to support President Bola Tinubu's re-election bid ahead of the 2027 general election. The defection was announced at the National Assembly in Abuja, where 𝗵𝗂𝗃, popularly known as Abba, resigned from the PDP and was received into the APC by Senate Deputy President Barrow Jibrin and senior party officials from the Northeast geopolitical zone. 𝗵𝗂𝗃 said his decision was personal and historic, attributing it to his belief in the leadership style of Senator Barrow and the policy direction of the Tinubu administration. APC leaders described the move as significant to the party's consolidation efforts ahead of a 2027, while party officials highlighted politics without borders and welcomed 𝗵𝗂𝗃 with assurances of full participation and equal opportunities within the party. Reacting to his son's decision, 𝗵𝗂𝗃 said it was entirely personal and emphasized that family members are free to make independent political choices in a democracy, reiterating his own criticism of APC governance and his commitment to offering Nigerians a credible alternative ahead of upcoming elections. Meanwhile, the Lagos State chapter of the All Progressives Congress has described the decision of 𝗵𝗂𝗃 to reject the ADC and align with the PDP as a major blow to Atiku's political credibility. In a statement, the APC said a move by Atiku's son underscored what it described as a lack of confidence in the opposition leader's political direction, arguing that the development weakened Atiku's influence within the opposition and highlighted internal contradictions in his political camp. The party maintained that the defection was a significant boost to the ruling party and a reflection of growing acceptance of his policies and leadership, adding that the younger Atiku's decision showed that political choices should be based on conviction rather than family or party loyalty. 𝗵𝗂𝗃, however, has distanced himself from the development, insisting that his son's political decisions are personal and do not reflect his own stance, as he reiterated his opposition to the APC and maintained his commitment to working with other opposition figures under the ADC platform. Still in politics, the chieftain of the Labour Party, Dele Momodu, has formally joined the African Democratic Congress, ADC, pledging to work with like-minded Nigerians to rescue, recover, and reset the country. Momodu made the declaration in Benin City, Edo State capital, during his return to partisan politics. Says the decision to return to partisan politics is driven by a desire to contribute to national renewal rather than personal political ambition, stating that he has no intention of contesting for elective office such as governor or senate in the 2027 elections. Addressing supporters, Momodu warned against Nigeria's drift toward a one-party state and called for collective action to address ongoing political and governance challenges. ADC leaders, including former Edo State Governor John Oyedele, welcomed his defection as a significant addition to the party's ranks, describing Momodu as a figure whose experience and commitment to accountability could strengthen the party's mission.
I just want to promote the best interests of our people. It is hard to imagine the pride I feel at this moment as I undertake my first major event in Benin City to pick up the membership card of the African Democratic Congress (ADC), the new opposition coalition in Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation. This is only the first and most important leg.
In other development, President Bola Tinubu has promised to provide more to improve the welfare of military and paramilitary personnel, that in addition to equipment and personnel training. He was speaking in a statement to commemorate the 2026 Armed Forces Remembrance Day. The president also announced initiative to honor those of them still in active service, as well as veterans, with days introduced initiatives including the 𝗀𝗵𝘁𝗄𝗃 electronic wall and the My Nigerian Hero campaign. Meanwhile, the Chief of Defense Staff, General 𝗬𝗵𝗿𝗀𝗃, has paid tribute to fallen heroes, emphasizing the importance of national unity and security. He assured that the military remains committed to defending Nigeria's democracy and stability. Mark the day with March past correspondent 𝗱𝗶𝘃𝗲𝗍𝗂 has a report.
Armed Force Remembrance Day and Wreath Laying Ceremony is held today in honor and remembrance of brave men and women who lost their lives on the line of duty while defending the nation. Lagos State held the Armed Forces Remembrance Day Parade and Wreath Laying Ceremony to honor the brave men and women of the Nigerian Armed Forces who lost their lives defending the nation. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu was represented at the event by his deputy, Dr. 𝗷𝗵𝘃𝗲𝗄 Hamzat. The ceremony featured a march past by the Nigerian Air Force, the Navy, and the police, as well as a 21-gun salute in honor of the fallen heroes. This was followed by the laying of wreath by the deputy governor and other top government, military, and security officials. Doves and balloons were later released in tribute to the fallen soldiers. Speaking at the event, Dr. 𝗷𝗵𝘃𝗲𝗄 Hamzat pledged the Lagos State government's continued support for 7 members of the armed forces, paramilitary organizations, veterans, and widows of the fallen heroes.
Remember our fallen heroes, to pray for them, and to also encourage our military officials and to let them know that their sacrifices will never be in vain. To also encourage the families that their uncles, their fathers, their brothers will always be remembered by this country. So as you know, this happens across the length and breadth of Nigeria, all the 36 states, the Federal Capital Territory. I'm sure the president is doing that right now. So it's just collectively to remember our armed forces.
He said the state would keep supporting both 7 and retired personnel in recognition of their sacrifices to keep the nation safe. The ceremony ended with prayers and a minute of silence in honor of Nigeria's fallen heroes.
And still in Lagos, some residents of Makoko area of the state have been protesting the demolition of their houses by the state government. Residents who took their protest to the State House of Assembly want the government to respect its agreement not to exceed 100 meters from the power line. Next report tells more.
These protesters are taken to the gates of the Lagos State House of Assembly to vent their grievances. They block parts of the road in protest against the Lagos State government's ongoing demolition of buildings in the Makoko area of the state. The protesters, who were mainly residents of the affected community, said the demolition exercise has caused fear and uncertainty among families living in the area.
The Lagos State government, since January 5, has brutally entered into Makoko community, a waterfront location in Lagos, and violently displaced people, have violated international laws by displacing people in such horrific and horrible manner.
You don't throw human beings just on the streets. And as we speak now, children can no longer go to school because their parents have been displaced and family have been separated.
They appealed to the state government to limit the demolition to 100 meters, insisting that buildings beyond that boundary should be spared.
The setback law says 30 meters from the power line, from drainage. Why going 100? As if 100 is not too much. You are going beyond 100 to 150 to 200 meters. Why?
The governor personally came to us and promised us that the demolition from the power line is going to be 100 meters. And now we can't even say the number they've gone. They've even gone beyond 500 meters now.
According to the protesters, many of the structures marked for demolition are residential buildings, and their demolition would leave families homeless and disrupt their means of livelihood.
People are struggling to see where to rent houses. A 2-bedroom flat is like 5 million naira in a city like Lagos. We're asking the Lagos state government today to halt the ongoing demolitions at Makoko. And we are asking for compensation.
Appeal to the government, state government in particular, and the members of House to please help us to add their own voice to our voices. I don't know what the name you are going to use for it. Either you are going to use compensation, either you are going to use resettlement. Those that have been displaced unnecessarily to be resettled.
An official who addresses them calls for calm, while the members of the State House of Assembly look into their case.
What you've said here, you've not told us that you are against government doing anything. But the point is that agreements must be respected. And that is what this House of Assembly also stands for. But like I said, we need to do them in a very peaceful manner. Those that are representing you, they will tell you what efforts we've done as fast as possible.
The protest led to a temporary disruption of vehicular movement around the assembly complex as security operatives were deployed to maintain order and prevent a breakdown of law and order.
Welcome to business. The Lagos State Internal Revenue Service has fixed January the 31st, 2026 as the deadline for employers to file their 2025 annual tax returns, warning that failure to comply will attract statutory penalties. LRS said the directive applies to all employers of labor in the state and is in line with provisions of the Nigeria Tax Administration Act 2025, which mandates the filing of annual tax returns detailing employees' emolument, taxes deducted and remitted, as well as payment made to consultants, vendors, and service providers. The agency stated that submissions must be made exclusively through its e-tax portal, noting that manual filings will no longer be accepted. Employers were also advised to ensure that all employees have valid tax identification numbers to avoid delays in the filing process. LRS urged taxpayers to file early to avoid last-minute challenges, stressing that timely compliance supports effective revenue administration and fiscal planning in Lagos State. Welcome to sport. Hosts Morocco and Senegal will contest the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations final on Sunday, January the 18th, 2026 at the Prince Moulay Abdellah Stadium in Rabat. Morocco advanced to the final after a tightly contested semi-final against Nigeria ended 0-0 following extra time. The match was decided by a penalty shootout, which Morocco won 4-2 with goalkeeper Yassine Bouno making key saves. In another semi-final, Senegal secured 1-0 victory over Egypt in Tangier. Veteran forward Sadio Mane scored the decisive goal in the 78th minute to send the defending champions into the final. The matchup pits one of Africa's leading teams against the host nation, which is aiming for its first continental title in decades. Broadcast and kickoff details are available across International Sports Network. A third-place playoff between Egypt and Nigeria is scheduled for Saturday, January the 17th, ahead of the final. Entertainment. Nigerian singer Davido has reacted to claims by a teenager, 𝗵𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗃𝗀, who alleges he is a father and is demanding a DNA test. In a series of posts on social media, Davido firmly denied being a father, stating that he has undergone multiple DNA tests, reportedly 5, all of which showed negative results. He also questioned the actions of the teenager's mother, describing the situation as unnecessary and insisting he would no longer comment publicly. The alleged daughter has responded online, disputing some of Davido's claim and maintaining her request for a DNA test to confirm her paternity, as she cited emotional distress and bullying over her claimed parentage as reasons for seeking clarity. That's where we draw the curtain this hour. Thank you for staying tuned, and you can please follow us for more updates on these stories and others on our website at africanews24.ng. Follow us on all our social media platforms to stay informed and ahead. I'm 𝗞𝘂𝘀𝗃𝗲𝗏. Good afternoon.